girls. Life is girls. Life as girls. Life as girls. We have a lot to say and we hope you're listening.
Have you ever felt uncertain in a class and needed help, but felt embarrassed to ask for the help you need? This year, I'm taking a college-level physics class, and I feel lost in the class a lot of the time. I actually feel so lost that I don't know how to formulate the right questions and get the help that I need. A lot of times, I wonder if I belong there, even though I'm a good student. It's actually kind of crazy how much that sense of being out of my element has made me question myself and made me dread school, which is a place I've always felt successful. My guest today, Ayesha, knows what it's like to struggle with feelings of belonging when it comes to her classes and activities. She also has some really great ideas for how we can overcome those feelings and pursue what we really want. Ayesha, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Aubrey.
Of course. So what I always like to do is start with telling me just like a little bit about yourself.
So I go to UT. I love crocheting and drawing and baking. Just like have a lot of hobbies.
Yes. Oh, same. Yes. I'm so excited that you're like in college. It's really cool to be talking to someone in college because that's where I'm going next year. So yes, I'm so excited. So my next kind of question is, in high school, you were interested in engineering and you also took engineering classes. So I was wondering, like, what was your experience like taking engineering and like STEM classes?
Oh, like in my I took robotics. Like that was like my main STEM class in high school, and it was very filled with males. Totally. It was predominantly males. There were like very few females. Like in my class, there were only 3 females, including me.
Wow.
And and that was for the class alone. Like I was also in the robotics club as well. And in that robotics club, there was like only 2 girls. Like it was even less than there was like in my class, which is insane. Yeah,
totally. I have like a very similar experience. Like I was in robotics in 7th grade and it was me and one other girl. And it's like we joined 7th grade and it was maybe a class of 20. And so it was 2 girls. So it felt like I didn't belong there. And that's kind of like what it made me feel so uncomfortable to be the only girl in that class. Especially like it was a STEM class and I feel like that's where it's most common to see like less girls in STEM classes. Has that been your experience like outside of robotics too, in like your science classes and even into college?
Yeah, I completely agree. Like in all my like English classes, there's a lot of girls, but like when you go into math, like engineering especially, they're like nobody. Like there's no girls in those classes.
Totally. Yeah. And it's interesting that that's the case because it's just like, how do you find that you like get to maybe get more people to be in those classes too? It's like a conversation I think that we have to talk about. Like how do you think we can get more people to be involved in those kinds of classes? Or have you ever like been a part of trying to make or advertise for girls to get in those classes more?
So I did a lot of research for my Girl Scout project. Cool. And there was a really people need to focus on mentorship like for girls because a lot of because there's not a lot of females like professional like in the professional field right now.
Totally.
So you need to have more people that are like more like female like professionals, so like younger girls can like look up to that and be like, oh, like I can be this person.
Yeah, totally.
So that's what I did for my Gold Award project. Like I specifically used that.
Totally. Do you want to go into more detail about what your Girl Scout Gold Award project was?
Yes. So my project name was I Can Be an Engineer. Cool. I brought some female professionals in the field or was in the field, and they helped girls out with different workshops that I had. And I also had a website where I interview some people that are trying to get more women in the field as well.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yes.
So I was wondering, I definitely, through my physics class that I took this year that I talked about, kind of really struggled, not only because it's a hard class, it is a college level class, but because I felt really out of place. And I think I could have used a mentor, but I didn't really know how to go about that. How would you recommend getting a mentor to someone who feels like they need it?
Honestly, a really good mentor is your teachers. Even it doesn't matter their gender. They don't have to be a girl. They can also be a guy. Someone that's very inviting, you know?
Yes.
Okay. I remember my robotics teacher, he was a guy, but he was one of the best teachers I had. And
totally.
The reason why I was in robotics was because of my teacher. Because he was always friendly, very open. He didn't care about my gender or anything.
Yes,
he never
totally.
made the environment very intimidating.
Yeah, I love that. I had like my 7th grade robotics teacher was like one of my favorite teachers ever, and he did move away and I was so sad, but he just like he didn't make me feel stupid for asking questions. He just like always was there to answer my questions no matter how many I asked, and I knew I could like kind of maybe ask really basic things, but he wouldn't make me feel dumb for that, which kind of leads me to my next question, which is like a lot of times in like my classes that I'm taking, I kind of feel like afraid to speak up. And I definitely am like afraid of asking a stupid question. And I don't really think there are any such things as stupid questions. But at least for me, like as a woman, I feel afraid to ask dumb questions. And it's interesting because there's a lot of like guy people, males in my class, and like back to my physics class, it's predominantly male. And I'm wondering like what you think the difference is between like women in those kind of classes and men, in like terms of like we're definitely, as a woman, I feel afraid to ask questions versus men who don't seem afraid to ask anything, like really just not terrified, I would say.
Well, I honestly, I can relate to like what you're feeling.
Yeah.
I'm in college, and like one of my classes, they were asking like how to design this certain like like this component, and like I designed it, and I was like, oh, I don't know like if this is correct, and then I saw like, and then I didn't raise my hand to like show it to the class, and like these like other guys like raised their hand, and they drew like the most like incorrect circuit that you can possibly think of, and then like the teacher like showed the correct solution. It was the exact solution I had.
Yes.
So it was like,
okay.
It was like I was just like, I need to like trust and like believe in myself more.
Yes, totally. And like, do you think that you find that like guys are just like not afraid to like embarrass themselves or like make a mistake?
I feel like absolutely 100%. Like I feel like guys like I think in our society it's very like guys can do whatever, like they can do whatever they want, and like they'll face the consequences, but it's not as looked down upon as like females are.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
I feel like we're definitely taught like something bad is going to happen if we ask a dumb question, or like it's the end of the world if we say something and embarrass ourselves. But how do you think like we're shifting to try to like be more bold, put ourselves out there no matter what happens? What is your advice for someone who is maybe afraid to speak up in class, and how are you maybe going to encourage them to like be more confident and like raise their hand more and speak up?
So my like advice is just like there's no stupid questions. Like my dad always tells me like there's no stupid questions when you're trying to learn something.
Yeah, totally.
So it's just like just speak up. Like it's very hard to speak up. Like, I also like deal with that still. Yeah. But like just speak up, and if you don't want to ask the question, ask it after like everyone leaves. Like just like one-on-one like with your like teacher, your professor, and like yourself.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea because I don't know, I think a lot of that is just maybe the other people in my class, and they might like already know it or just like sigh when I ask it. But doing it after class too is great because I mean, you're still getting the information and the help that you need. Maybe just do it in a more comfortable environment. So I think that's really great advice. And now it's also like we were talking about earlier in our pre-interview, the idea of like imposter syndrome, kind of not feeling like you belong in the space that you're in. How has that affected you being a college student?
Well, it's just like every time like you get like a test grade back, you're like, oh, like did I do like as well as everyone else? Like, and if you didn't do as well as everyone else, it's like, oh, like should I not be an engineer? Yeah. It's just like it's really hard to deal with that imposter syndrome, really, because it's just like and like every engineering student has it, I feel like, but for females it's like more predominant. Because like my first semester freshman year, there were a lot of girls in my first
intro classes.
Intro classes.
Totally.
And now there's like not that many.
Right. So can you talk more about like what you're kind of majoring in and how it's your experience of like going from a class that had a lot of women, like now what classes are you taking that makes it like more small and more like less women in your class?
So like I'm in electrical and computer engineering major. Cool. Okay. And I was like the introductory classes I was in like were non-honors, but then like this semester actually I moved like to like an honors class for like 2 of my classes. Wow. And there were like only like 4 girls in like a class of 50. Wow. So it was like the amount of girls like from my like introductory classes like dropped dramatically.
Wow. Yeah, definitely. And like, we're back on this idea of imposter syndrome. I feel like, do those feelings get worse as you, like, find the number of women, like, dwindling down in your, like, these more specific classes?
I feel like it does, because it's like you have to be like not like you have to be not like better than everyone else, but you have to be like in like that like the same, I forgot the word, like the like
I know what you're saying
media,
though.
like, you know, like you have to be like in the like the middle area, basically.
Yeah. No, I know exactly what you're saying. Yes, totally.
And it, like, if there's like a limited amount of girls, it's like you have to like also like show that you're like you're approachable, like you would like like you are there for like you're there for because of everyone else is there, you know?
Yeah,
like
totally.
You have the same reasons, and yeah.
Definitely. Do you think that like imposter syndrome affects like women differently than it affects men? Or do you think like everyone's kind of just like going through it's kind of less dependent on gender?
I feel like everyone's going through it the same, but it's just like it's different because males have like I'm gonna say they have resources in quotation marks, because like they might not have resources, but like for females, like in engineering, like there's not that many, like you, like I feel like it amplifies what you are, like the imposter syndrome that males feel, because it's like, oh, like there's only 5 girls, they have to be like, have to stand out, you know?
Yes, or like just like being like a woman in these like more STEM classes that have more men, I'm feeling like I don't deserve to be here because I'm a woman. Sometimes that's what I'm going through. And I can totally relate to like this idea, like I don't belong here, especially back to my physics class. I could talk about it all day long because that physics class is one of the hardest things I've ever had to take. But like my hardest thing is trying to kind of get over the fact that I keep telling myself like I'm not good enough to be here, or like I just can't handle this hard of classwork. Those are kind of things that always go through my head. Do you have advice for people that are kind of in that same situation of how they can kind of gain back that sense of belonging? Because I feel like we all start, like at least school, we've always done science for as long as I can remember, elementary through high school. So we didn't really start in this place like we can't do it. But somehow like through high school and college, I've kind of developed that kind of state of mind where I'm like, oh, I can't do it. I can't handle this. Maybe. Do you have advice for people as they get to those like older stages, they get into high school and college, for how they can regain their sense of belonging?
So honestly, like what helped me the most is that like people don't define me.
Yeah,
you know?
totally.
Because like the like reason why I didn't feel like I like belonged was because like people would like insinuate or like tell me that I didn't belong.
Yeah.
So like I would just say like those people, like they don't even know what they're saying.
Yes.
It's like if you like you have to believe in yourself in order to go far.
Yeah, definitely. And you're like your biggest cheerleader.
Yeah.
I think it's great that like no matter what anyone else says, you definitely have to like fight for yourself and for your right to be in your own class. Totally.
Yeah.
And I also think it helps to have like a big support system. I know that like when I was struggling with this class, I would meet up with my friends. Like we would go to a cafe somewhere, we would just study for hours together, and it helped to like be going through it with my other friends. And like even using my parents as a support system. So is that something for you too that you found is helpful?
Yeah, that was like that's extremely helpful actually. Because like if I like feel like I didn't really belong in my like major, I would like call my dad or call my mom, or like I would just talk to my friends.
Yeah, that's great.
And like they would help me like feel better about myself.
Yes, I think that's helpful for just college in general too.
Yeah.
Like I cannot imagine doing this without friends. Like you need like that support system, and like you don't have to go through it alone too. Definitely. And my last like kind of thing I want to touch on was back to your idea of like mentorship, because it's something you worked on for your board, and I think it's amazing. How do you think like mentorship, at least like in terms of your project or just in general, is different from like what you get in schools, mentorship in your program, and how do you think it's different from just like what school systems offer?
Mentorship helps like facilitate growth, and for like education, just like more like teaching you the material and that's it. But for mentorship, is like actually helping you improve and
Definitely,
like just like seeing you grow and like help you become a better person.
Oh, I think that's great. Yeah, I totally understand that. That makes so much sense. I'm thinking about it like my school, our teachers really want you to succeed because maybe that's what their success as a teacher is based off of. And I definitely see a lot in my teaching, like my teachers, that they're preparing you for a test, but it doesn't seem like they're preparing you for like real life. And they want they definitely want you to understand to do well on tests and things and to like make a good grade in the class, but not so much like, so you just have that foundation. And so you really have a good understanding. So I think that really sets apart mentors and like versus teachers. I know that there are like mentor people in my life that act as mentors that like, they just want me to have like just such a good understanding and exceed past the classroom. So I think that's great. And I think what you're doing for your Gold Award is so great. What you've done is just amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I think that's everything that we had to touch on today. Thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Of course. And thank you for listening to this episode of Life as Girls. We'll see you next time.
If you enjoyed this episode of Life as Girls, be sure to write a review and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And a big thank you to our sponsor, the Girl Scouts of Central Texas. You can learn more about them at www.gsctx.org. If you are interested in sponsoring this podcast, or if you have a topic you'd like for us to talk about, email us at communications@gsctx.org. See you next time.